Lesson 31 is quite exciting. We're going to learn about equations with parentheses. We always want to get rid of parentheses before we solve an equation. Another thing we're going to talk about is when a negative is in front of parentheses. That's important too, because that makes you change the sign of everyone inside. Stay tuned. Lesson 31.
Well, like that little critter said, we're going to be dealing with parentheses and negatives in front of parentheses. And I actually find this process kind of soothing, fun, peaceful. I don't know, there's all kinds of adjectives I love solving equations. It's just so straightforward. So remember, all of these we can check our answers by plugging them back in. I'm not going to be doing that just for a matter of time, and they don't show us that in the book. If you were going to do this on a test, I would definitely check the answers that we get so that you can do, you know that you could get 100% on those problems, and you will be confident in what you turn in. So when we solve equations, there are some steps we need to do, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But when we see something like this, I see that, again, I want to get b by itself. So what I have to do is get rid of this parenthesis attachment here. This side is great. He's ready to play. This one's got some work to do before it can start balancing. So what we do is use the distributive property and multiply that 2 by everyone inside. So 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times b, so we say minus 2b equals b minus 5. And now we want to get our b's to one side. So what I'm going to do is add the 2 b's and bring it over to the other side because he was negative, and I like to get rid of the negatives or move the negatives first. Now, that's my preference. You might have subtracted b from both sides, and that's okay too. You will still, if you do it correctly, get the get the correct answer. As I'm talking, I'm writing the wrong things. So adding 2b to both sides. So those go away, and we've got 6 equal 3b minus 5. Well, now the b's are happy where they're at, but we've got to boot this 5 out by adding. And so those go away, and we've got 3b equals 11. Now let's go ahead, divide both sides by 3. And so what we get is b equals 11 thirds. Now, could this have been checked? Absolutely. We would take 11 thirds and plug it in up here. Okay? It is a fraction one, so it would take some extra steps, but that's okay. Don't be afraid of putting fractions in to check your work. So just to remind you, you would go like this. I'm not going to do it out because I know you want the video not to last an hour, so I will do my best to do that. So you would plug this in and see if this is true. Once we simplify this side and simplify that side, we see if we have a true statement, and in that case, we have the correct answer. I also have the book open, so I know that this answer has been checked, probably by a few people, and I'm going to trust it. Example 2, now both sides have parentheses that need to be tackled, so we do that first. And we go ahead and do 3 times everybody in here, which is 3 plus 6x. Now this 7 did not disappear. It's still part of the whole equation. And this is what we get when we multiply -4 by everybody inside. So this is just really good practice with those negatives. All right, do not make this a positive. Now before we get x to one side, we want to add like terms if we see any. So we don't want to play with anything until we put these two together. I see the 3 and the 7 are just kind of sitting there waiting. They see each other across the x, and they're like, hey buddy, we should get together because I kind of feel lonely and we're on the same side, so we should join up. So we've got 6x plus 10 equals -4x minus 8. Now we can get our x's to one side. So again, this one's negative, so that's the one I draw my eye to because I want to get rid of the negatives. That's not always perfect. It's not always going to work perfectly. You might have negative x's on both sides, and in that case, we just go negative, and that's okay. So those go away, and now we've got 10x plus 10 equals negative 8. And then we're going to want to get rid of our 10. Again, the x is slowly getting rid of everybody. So subtract minus 10 on both sides. So we get negative 18 on that side and 10x on this side. So let's go ahead and divide by 10. And we're going to get x equals, I don't know if you can see, I have to write small, 18/10. Right there, I'll write it bigger, but that is not reduced. It can stay top heavy, we can keep it improper, but we do need to reduce it. So we're going to say equals negative 9/5. And I showed you earlier how you would go back and check that. All right, example 3. Why don't you go ahead and try this and see if you get down to the answer of 2/3. Now go ahead and make sure you remember the order of events. You first eliminate parentheses, then you add like terms, and then you get x to one side and solve for x. So get rid of parentheses, add like terms, and get x to one side. In fact, I'm going to play a song while I work through mine and you work through yours at home.
How to solve equations, eliminate, eliminate, eliminate. How to solve equations, eliminate, eliminate, eliminate. How to solve equations, eliminate, eliminate, eliminate. How to solve equations, equations, eliminate parentheses first. Next, add like terms on both sides. Get x by itself, and you have solved your equation. How to solve equations, eliminate parentheses first. Next, add like terms on both sides. Get x by itself, and you have solved your equation. How to solve equations, eliminate, eliminate, eliminate. How to solve equations, eliminate, eliminate, eliminate. How to solve equations, eliminate, eliminate, eliminate. How to solve equations, eliminate parentheses first. Next, add like terms on both sides. Get x by itself, and you have solved your equation. How to solve equations, eliminate parentheses first. Next, add like terms on both sides. Get x by itself, and you have solved your equation. How to solve equations, eliminate, eliminate, eliminate. How to solve equations, eliminate, eliminate, eliminate. How to solve equations, eliminate, eliminate, eliminate. How to solve equations, eliminate, 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 eliminate.
Example 4 is different. We're going to talk about, in fact, before I go into example 4, I'm going to just talk to you about sometimes you get a negative in front of parentheses. Sometimes you're going to see something like this. And we have a negative in front of it. What this means, the negative sign always means the opposite of in English. So the opposite of 3x plus 2y minus 7. So the opposite, how we change that and get rid of those parentheses. So to get rid of the parentheses, we get the opposite of everybody involved. So we've got, instead of positive 3x, it's negative 3x. Instead of positive 2x, it's negative 2y, or sorry, 2y. And then the opposite of negative 7 is plus 7. So this equals this without the parentheses. All right, let's try another one over here. Let's say you have negative on the outside, negative or the opposite of the quantity x minus 3y plus 6 minus k. How that would turn without the parentheses is now you would have minus 3x plus 3y minus 6 plus k. So everybody's signs changed, and now the parentheses are gone. So let's go ahead and do that in a problem. And here we see, this is where we're going to use it. There's a negative in front of parentheses. Nowhere else is there a negative sign in front of parentheses, just right there. So we're going to eliminate parentheses first, and in order to do that, we get 12 minus 2x minus 5. So this was a positive 2x inside parentheses, and this was a positive 5. But this negative changed everybody. And then the other side actually doesn't change at all because there is no negative in front of those parentheses. So when we get, what that means is these parentheses are unnecessary. They can just fall off. Now I can write plus negative x, but you all know now we don't really write plus negative x. We just say minus x minus 3. So when we take these parentheses off, we don't do plus minus, we just go ahead and say minus. That's probably the most complicated part. Then we go back to our steps and we add like terms. So I see the 12 and the minus 5. So I'm going to say 7 minus 2x. And then these are like terms. It's a negative 5. Alright, now we're going to get x to one side by adding 2x to both sides. So now I've got 7 equals negative 5 plus x. So let's get x alone. So it looks like we're getting 12 equals x. Now as I did that one, I was peeking in the book and I realized in the book this right here is actually not there. So the book is not going to match up with what I have, and that's okay. The other one is a good one to try and practice. So you can go back and look in the book and look at example 4 and see what they did. So I got 12 equals x. Now a good thing to do when it gets a little shady and we're not sure is to go ahead and take that 12 and check by plugging it in, and I'm probably going to run out of room. There we go, I made it. So let's go ahead and simplify all this. Okay, so that's what that looks like, and that would be 12 minus 29, and this would be negative 14, negative 17. So let's see if this simplifies, and it does. So even though I did not copy the problem correctly from the book, I solved the problem that I created for us. And it's actually good that the negative is here just so you can see what happens. So the next one, I believe I'll play some music and you're going to go ahead and try this. Where I would say be very careful is right here and right here, where you've got a negative on the outside of your parentheses. And ready, go.
When you have a negative in front of your parentheses, change those. When you have a negative in front of your parentheses, change those. When you have a negative in front of your parentheses, change the sign of everyone inside. Change that sign of everyone inside. Change the sign of all the ones inside. When there's a negative in front of your parentheses. When you have a negative in front of your parentheses, change the sign of everyone inside. Change that sign of everyone inside. Change the sign of all the ones inside. When there's a negative in front of your parentheses. When you have a negative in front of your parentheses, change those. When you have a negative in front of your parentheses, change those. When you have a negative in front of your parentheses, change the sign of everyone inside. Change that sign of everyone inside. Change the sign of all the ones inside. When there's a negative in front of your parentheses. When you have a negative in front of your parentheses, change the sign of everyone inside. Change that sign of everyone inside. Change the sign of all the ones inside. When there's a negative in front of your parentheses. When you have a negative in front of your parentheses, change those.
So there you have it on that. Hopefully, it's this first line that's probably where the mistakes could really happen because of all the negatives above. So really make sure you know how I got from here to here. The last part is practice. So there's 3 practice problems. Do your very best on them and see how successful you are. be sure to call or text me if you get stuck. I'm just going to play music while I work these through. So enjoy your.
Equations, eliminate, 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 how to solve equations, eliminate, 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 how to solve equations, eliminate, 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 how to solve equations, eliminate parentheses first. Next, add like terms on both sides. Get x by itself, and you have solved your equation. How to solve equations, eliminate parentheses first. Next, add like terms on both sides. Get x by itself, and you have solved your equation. How to solve equations, eliminate, 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 how to solve equations, eliminate, 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 how to solve equations, eliminate, 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 how to solve equations, eliminate parentheses first. Next, add like terms on both sides. Get x by itself, and you have solved your equation. How to solve equations, eliminate parentheses first. Next, add like terms on both sides. Get x by itself, and you have solved your equation. How to solve equations, eliminate, 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 eliminate. When you have a negative in front of your parentheses, change those. When you have a negative in front of your parentheses, change those. When you have a negative in front of your parentheses, change the sign of everyone inside. Change that sign of everyone inside. Change the sign of all the ones inside. When there's a negative in front of your parentheses. When you have a negative in front of your parentheses, change the sign of everyone inside. Change that sign of everyone inside. Change the sign of all the ones inside. When there's a negative in front of your parentheses. When you have a negative in front of your parentheses, change those. When you have a negative in front of your parentheses, change those. When you have a negative in front of your parentheses, change the sign of everyone inside. Change that sign of everyone inside. Change the sign of all the ones inside. When there's a negative in front of your parentheses. When you have a negative in front of your parentheses, change the sign of everyone inside. Change that sign of everyone inside. Change the sign of all the ones inside. When there's a negative in front of your parentheses. When you have a negative in front of your parentheses, change those.